Doubling down, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu now saying his video criticizing the Biden administration was, quote, absolutely necessary. In it, he accused the U.S. of withholding weapons from Israeli forces to use in the war with Hamas. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan called the video perplexing. Foreign correspondent Tom Soufi Burridge joins me now from Tel Aviv. Tom, even after that criticism, Sullivan and Secretary of State Antony Blinken both met with Israeli officials yesterday. Do you know what they discussed?
We're told by U.S. officials, Phil, that they talked about the situation in the north of Israel on the border. Again today, we've seen the Israeli military firing into southern Lebanon to hit, they say, Hezbollah targets. But we're also seeing Iran-backed Hezbollah firing into Israel again today. So the situation up there remains volatile. In that meeting, there's no doubt about it that the two sides, the Biden camp and Netanyahu's advisors, would have been trying to kind of smooth over tensions, to talk about arms supplies. That was the kind of crux of the Netanyahu criticism and the subsequent reaction from the Biden administration. But also, of course, the war in Gaza. How and when the war will end, what comes next, that kind of topic is really coming out here in Israel at the moment. What is the plan that Netanyahu has for post the war in Gaza? Today, in an interview with the Punchbowl website, he is suggesting that Arab nations should come in and somehow help administer Gaza after the war. But that, at the moment, I think feels like an aspiration and less like a kind of realistic option, because there's no sign that Arab nations will be willing to do that. Phil?
Yeah, and on that front, before anyone gets to that point, the IDF, Tom, has been ramping up operations in Rafah while saying at the same time the mission could be done there in just a matter of weeks. What's the next phase of this look like?
The IDF is saying at the moment that once they finish their main operation in Rafah, and we're seeing evidence now, Phil, that they are moving into the kind of western and northern districts of that city. We're also seeing evidence that they've been striking into areas which were designated as humanitarian zones for displaced Palestinians. You remember, like, about 1 million Palestinians were evacuated out of Rafah when this operation began. The IDF says it has been striking those areas because Hamas is hiding, or some of its fighters are hiding in those areas. But we're seeing quite severe casualties. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry is saying about 30 people killed, 50 wounded in a recent attack into those those areas for displaced people. But, you know, the IDF is saying after this main operation is over, they'll just be in a mopping up phase, and then it's down to the business of what comes next. And I think a critical point for people to realise, Phil, is that we've seen it time and time and again. The IDF has conducted operations in various parts of the Gaza Strip. They've moved in, they've conducted their operations, and then they've moved out. But we've seen time and again Hamas fighters reappear in those areas and the IDF having to go back into those areas. And that chimes with the thoughts of the spokesperson of the IDF this week, who has said, and I think quite interestingly, he's come out in a TV interview saying, in his opinion, Hamas cannot be destroyed. It can be degraded, but it can't be destroyed.
And, Tom, to the politics of all of this, we understand there's another rally planned for Saturday calling for the Israeli government to reach a ceasefire deal. What's the latest on those talks? Do you know?
Well, look, ceasefire talks definitely continue, Phil. We're not seeing kind of formal moves by Israeli delegations to meet in Qatar. The Qatari foreign minister, one of the key mediators along with the US, is saying that progress is being made, but we're seeing no sign of that at the moment. Look, there's that US-backed plan on the table, but, you know, the two red lines from Hamas and the Israeli government don't chime. The Israeli government is still saying it wants to meet its war objectives in Gaza before it goes for a permanent ceasefire deal, and Hamas says it will only accept a proposal that really leads to that permanent ceasefire on the ground. Phil?
All right. Tom Soufi Burridge in Tel Aviv for us. Tom, thank you.